So next in the battle, we have a battle of dragons. Hanayo using Kagero up against NeoBuster, who is using Narukami. I can see anything that's being typed in the chat, and I'm looking at it as the fight goes on. Neo starts off with the crown holder, and Hanayo starts off with the Lizard General Conroe, which means we pretty much... What the hell did Neo do? New game mechanic. Grade skip the Vanguard. Luckily that was caught, because that was going to be a 16k attack that was just not noticed. So Neo has the option to counterblast and draw a card. He doesn't get the removal option. He also loses out on the possibility of using Seishin's skill, but he never really needed that to begin with. That's undue. The benefits aren't spectacular. First attack is to Chatra, which is not guarded. Second attack is to the Vanguard, which may be guarded. Yes, it is. And the final attack is not guarded, and no trigger appears. So Neo made it out with only 1 damage and not much hand lost. Rides Crimson and goes straight into the attack, not trying to call rears. Hanayo hesitates, not deciding outright to no guard. He might actually guard this attack. He 2 passes. First check his crown holder, automatically won't get it. And Chatra. Both good units for next turn, but not really helpful right now. So we get Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 to use the Legend skill. We're probably going to see a stride into Vortex, which doesn't take Counterblast. And it looks like for the Legend skill, he has 2 options. Hanayo has 2 options and is weighing what he wants to do. Decides to get Spherical Orb, which is Stride Fodder, and uses it just for that. Now, this is Vortex Desire. If Vortex hits, it'll retire both units on Neo's field. That crown holder, he does have another one in hand, but unless he runs 4 crown holder, he'd only have 1 left against a deck that snipes and retires a bunch of rear guards. He chooses to guard it. I don't blame him in the least. Critical trigger, though. He had a 10k for a rear guard, and he's just going to take this and put himself to 4. I feel like he could have taken the first one and then tried to guard the second. He didn't know the critical would appear, obviously, but even if he would have had to drop 10 and a 5 in order to guard the with crit unit, it might have been worth it. Of course, that also depends on what he chooses to do now. Goes into Zora's. The only first stride for Narukami. Unfortunately, I'm not saying that ironically, is literally their only first stride option. See, I'd call it that, but I'd call it Zora ass, but I feel like there's a particular person who would hunt me down and cut my head off if I said that too many times. So Zoros is attacking. It's gonna hit, so Crown Holder will go off. Seishin goes off. And then Zoros retires another one, and then two get bound. If it was me, I would go straight for the spherical orb. It locks out defeat flare. It locks out defeat flare if he doesn't have grade 3 uh flame dragons in the drop zone. So Neo actually, because of Neo's deck, he actually has the power to control that, which is extremely helpful in this matchup. So now Crown Holder can give 2k to something as well as itself. There's no point in giving power to Rising Phoenix. So we're just going to give it to Chatra. Forced to guard this, and he does. Would have lost another unit from the drop zone, and Neo would have gotten a draw. This fight is actually fairly even. I mean, the damage difference says otherwise, but no, Neo's in a good position. Now, Hanayo does have the option to use the Legend skill in order to perform 6 drive checks this turn. One with a triple drive to the rear guard, and then one with the triple drive to the vanguard. He decides not to go for that and instead is going to stride, but he takes it back. It looks like Hanyo is rethinking his decision. Gazing at his hand one more time, making sure that his options are correct. And it looks like he's going to think really hard about this one. We've already seen that he has Stride Fodder in his hand. It's only a matter of if he wants to use it or if he's going to do something completely different. So we'll just have to see. Looks like he's finally come to a decision. And he's using the Legend skill. And now with GB2, the Legend is now a 26k grade 4 Flame Dragon who gets +1 drive and who gets +1 drive check and the ability to restand after it attacks the rear. However, in order to do the restand, he has to discard 3 cards, so he's not actually gaining any more hand than he would from a normal triple drive. Now, Hanyo knows that NeoBuster does have a perfect guard in his hand. He needs to think very carefully about where he's deciding the critical trigger is going to go. He decides to give it to the vanguard. Now he has another to give to the rear guard. And now Neo may be in trouble. Because he has 4 damage, he has to guard these attacks, otherwise it is lights out. He's going to have to be able to guard both of them. 26k in here, and at least 36k for the Nehalem. Goes for the 1 pass, and gets a heal triggered. Now, because it wasn't a critical, Neo does have the ability to heal trigger if he gets a heal in any of these checks, and he does at the 6th. And finally, he gets a perfect guard for the rear. And considering that Neo is top decking right now, he's probably going to enact Legion in order to unite his Vanguard with the Dragonic Kaiser Vermilion that is in the drop zone, if not one that's already in deck. Although because I do see two in the drop zone already, it's very likely that he's got Stride Fodder. He is going to Stride. He is going for gold. Looking at his drop zone, I'm wondering if that was his best option. There's nothing particularly wrong with it, to be honest. There are 2 units in his bind, so we're going to get 6,000 power to the front row. So 32,000 at the Vanguard. There were no perfect guard checks in any of the drive checks. Hanayo might no guard. Of course, if he does, that means that Crown Holder will go off and he uses a perfect guard. Heal trigger heals a damage, something he did need very much at this point, and a critical trigger. And he gives all of it to Phoenix once again. So Phoenix will be hitting for 21,000 and 2 critical. An attack to Nahalem is guarded, and he attacks Nahalem again. Seems like Neo is not going to give Hanayo the counterblast, nor let him keep the Nahalem so that he can enact any abilities. Could be for the best though, considering that if he did have the ability to use a skill, we could see a plethora of units from Novell to the Ace. Stride into Root Flare. Root Flare's skill kills a rear guard, and then he calls Neo Flame to go for the other one. Root Flare Dragon attacks. Neo decides not to guard. And there's a critical trigger again. And unfortunately, Neo just got a heal trigger in the triple drive, so it wasn't meant to be. Really close match for NeoBuster on that one. He didn't make any wrong decisions. It's just he got critical twice in a row in situations where he really couldn't afford it. Moving on to the next game.